in the lobby. Our staff is here to assist you fill out the cards and find the corresponding agenda items. All speaker cards from the public must be submitted prior to the start of the meeting. The Town Council is committed to providing an environment where everyone.
We'll start
voice
our
is heard
regular
during
meeting in
public
about 2 minutes.
In an effort to preserve order and decorum, here are a few rules and guidelines we ask everyone to follow during the meeting. You may bring signs and similar items into the council chambers, but these items may not be held above shoulder height or otherwise obstruct the view or block the path of members of the audience. Disruptions impact the flow of discussion, potentially intimidate others, and detract from the purposes of the meeting. Therefore, disruptive behavior, including, but not limited to, cheering, shouting, booing, or the use of profanity is prohibited. Applause is only permissible during the presentations and proclamations portion of the agenda. Threats directed toward any individual or group are prohibited. Speakers may not campaign or advocate for or against candidates for office or ballot issues or otherwise attempt to influence the outcomes of elections. A full list of meeting rules is displayed at the entrance of the council chambers. During the public hearing portion of the agenda and during communications from citizens, when your name is called, please come forward to the podium. Then state your name, your town of residence, and begin speaking. Remarks shall be limited to 3 minutes. Citizens who are at the meeting and wish to donate their time to a single speaker must fill out an individual card and then combine their speaker cards. In such an event, one person from the group shall be designated to present their remarks, which shall be limited to 6 minutes. If one speaker is speaking on behalf of others who are present, the mayor or vice mayor shall read into the record the names of those whose time is combined. No person other than the individual speaking shall enter into the discussion. Officials on the dais may not respond to any questions or comments during communications from citizens. However, the council may ask questions during public hearing items. All comments and questions shall be directed through the mayor or presiding officer. Thank you again for attending a Gilbert Town meeting and for your participation in local government.
Sometimes they might want an invitation, sometimes they think in these circumstances. So then you can once he's done,
So I don't have to say that.
correct.
Okay, so I'll say, I'll do all of this.
And then once he's left the diet, any other questions on this item? No questions. You can entertain a motion.
So, oh, here. So I'll talk about this after PD. So
I'll call to order the regular council meeting of February 25th, 2025. We'll start with the invocation and pledge of allegiance. The invocation tonight will be by Pastor Michael Hayden of Christ Greenfield Church. Pastor.
Thank you so much for the honor of being here, and thank you guys for your service for our city. Let us pray. Our Father, eternal Lord, ruler of all, graciously regard those you have set in position of authority among us, that, guided by your Spirit, maybe be high in purpose, wise in counsel, firm in good resolution, and unwavering in their duty, so that under them and their governance we may live quiet and peaceful lives in alignment and in the will of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilmember Buckland tonight.
Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mayor Scott Anderson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Bobby Buckley,
Here.
Councilmember Chuck Bongiovanni,
Here.
Councilmember Kenny Buckland,
Here.
Councilmember Jan Kaprowski. Here. Councilmember Monty Lyons,
Here.
and Councilmember Jim Torgerson. Here. A quorum is present.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, since Councilmember Lyons is not able to join us tonight, he will be virtual and all of our votes will be voice votes. We won't be using the board tonight. We have one recognition tonight, which we are proud to be able to do. And we've asked Councilmember Buckland to lead that.
Mr. Peterson, if you'd like to join me. So I am honored, and it gives me great joy to introduce Mr. Frederick Peterson to you, a man who served our nation for many years, and I had the pleasure of meeting him, speaking with him for a few minutes outside, and also learning what a good human being he is. Mr. Frederick Peterson is set to celebrate his 100th birthday on March 2nd, 2025. Mr. Peterson proudly served his country with distinction for 24 years in the United States Navy, from 1943 to 1967, dedicating his life to defending our nation during World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Mr. Peterson's service began as a cook, and he later became a radio man, demonstrating his adaptability, leadership, and commitment to excellence in every role he undertook. He is a Grand Master Soke in karate, a title he earned after bringing martial arts to the United States in 1947. In addition to his distinguished naval career, Mr. Peterson was a champion boxer during World War II in the Pacific, earning accolades and inspiring fellow service members through his athleticism and tenacity. Folks, do not mess with this man. Today, we are here to recognize Mr. Frederick Peterson for his 100 years of life, his extraordinary service to our country, his lasting impact on our community. We are proud to celebrate this milestone and express our gratitude for his sacrifices and achievements in service to our nation and the town of Gilbert. Mr. Peterson would like to say a few words. We would love your wisdom, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I didn't know anybody knew that much about me. Yeah, haven't been to my house. My house is a museum in Gilbert. And I've been all over the world many times, and also my wife. My lovely wife is here too, Alita. Yeah, and I was in World War II. Well, let me start with my mother and father. I never saw my mother and father. They died when I was a baby. I was an orphan. And my sister, her and I, and she married, and I went to live with her after I got fired on my job because I didn't abide by the rules of not taking Christmas off. And I took it off because she told me I couldn't, and I did. And then she told me you were fired. So I laid around my sister's house, and when World War II started, I went in the Navy. So I served, like he said, in 3 wars, South Pacific, and then Guadalcanal and Bougainville. I was with the 1st Marine Raiders, backed them up, medical. I worked for the doctors in the daytime, stretcher bear at night. That's why I wear the Bronze Star. And the morgue was right next to our tent. So I've seen all parts of your body, the male, of course, and and also I want to say to you that God said for us to love our neighbor as ourselves. And he didn't say what color to love. And I want to tell you, you're very stupid if you look at a person's skin and try to see what color, what nationality they belong to. Because you look at me, you see I'm a pleasing tan, but both of my grandfathers were white. One from Alabama and one from Georgia. And the one from Alabama was my father, my mother's father, and he was married to a woman from India. And the one from Georgia was my mother's father, the Gibson family. And they loved the ground she walked on. And she died, both of them died in Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay, he died, he was in World War I. You probably heard of General Pershing, okay? And he served under him. But he got tuberculosis and died from tuberculosis, so he couldn't come near us. Now, I want to thank the mayor, and I want to thank the gentleman here, all the council members and all the people that are in charge. I can't call your names again, and some of them are trying to think now, but I want to thank you for having me, you know, and give me the recognition that I have right now. If anybody have any questions, I'd like to answer them for you.
What's the secret for making it to 100?
I am the oldest martial artist in America. And even now, I've been in 6 Hall of Fames. If you come to my house, my garage and my house will knock your eyes out. And if you beg, don't come near me. I'll take you down with 2 fingers. And so, I mean, if any of you like to learn something, come to my house. You come and get my address before I leave. I'll be glad to have you come. And, you know, I love you. I love everybody, okay? All right, now, thank you so much. Any other questions?
We're going to get a picture, sir.
Oh, thank you.
How about a standing O for this man? Okay, so if we could have the Veterans Advisory Board come on up and the family members come up, we're going to get some photos up here.
Uno más, uno más. All right, 1, 2. Perfect. And let's have Veterans Advisory Board. Of course, we must go, Charles. Gotta find it. Here we go. All right, 1, 2. One more. Perfect. Let Tim get some.
Patrick? Patrick, is he the same rank as your dad was? Oh. Thank you again, everyone that was here for that. Very special. We'll move on to our public hearing section of the agenda. I'll ask the council if there are any of the items that you'd like to be heard separately. I do know that item number 3 has a request to speak, so we'll pull that one. How about the other items? There's one that's requested for continuance till March 25th. We'll do that one separately, I guess.
And item 3.
Yeah, that would be all. Any others?
12, please.
12?
Oh, that's on
That's on consent.
That's on consent.
Yeah. If there are no other items to be pulled off, I'll open the public hearing on items 2, 4. 4 we'll take separately. Item 2, 5, 6, and 7. I'll close the public hearing on those and bring it to the council for action.
Make a motion to approve items 3, 5, 6, and 7.
I'll second that.
2, 5.
Oh.
2,
2, 5, 6, and 7.
I'll
Apologies.
second that one.
Motion by Councilmember Kaprowski, seconded by Councilmember Bongiovanni. Please vote by voice vote. Voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 4, I'll open the public.
Second?
Motion by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Kaprowski. Please vote. Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Go back to item number 3. I'll open the public hearing on item 3 on Tustin Ranch and ask for staff presentation on this item.
All right. Good evening, Council. Kristen Devine, Senior Planner. The cases I have before you tonight are going to be for a rezoning PAD amendment request as well as a general plan amendment request. The site is located at the southwest corner of Greenfield and Pecos Roads. The applicant is proposing to amend their PAD and also amend their general plan designation to better align with the existing zoning. A pre-plat application is also being reviewed concurrently with this rezoning and general plan amendment application. All right, and the applicant is requesting the general plan amendment from general commercial and general office to residential 1 to 2 dwelling units per acre, and also a PAD amendment to request deviations and incorporate a previous outlier parcel into the site. All right, and this site is just under 40 acres and was annexed into the town in 2000 under the land use category of 1 to 2 dwelling units per acre. The property was also rezoned at that time from County R43 to R110 and R115. The land use and zoning stayed in effect until 2008, when a town-initiated general plan amendment was approved for 98 acres, amending the residential land use category of this site to business park and community commercial. General plan amendment was initiated due to the increased interest in development from the area after the Mercy Gilbert Hospital and Santan Freeway had developed. This change required a majority of the 21 property owners at the time to be supportive of that amendment. The land use categories of business park and community commercial stayed in effect until 2020, when the 2020 Gilbert General Plan was adopted. This plan updated the previous categories to general commercial and general office, which is where they are today. Right, and the current land use today remains general commercial and general office as approved in 2020. The requested amendment will convert the site back to the original general plan designation of residential 1 to 2 dwelling units per acre, bringing that land use classification back into alignment with the zoning that has accompanied the site since 2000. Right, and the site was zoned SF15 and SF10 with a planned area development in 2000. The applicant is requesting to amend that previously approved PAD by bringing in a previous 1.5 acre outlier parcel. They are requesting to update their development plan as well and add development standard deviations. The 1.5 acre outlier parcel is currently zoned SF35, and once incorporated into the site, will be rezoned to SF10. The updated development plan still includes 76 lots, but it will have a proposed density of 1.9 dwelling units per acre instead of the 1.97 dwelling units per acre as previously approved in 2000. The plan on the left of your screen is the original approval, and the plan on the right is the updated proposal. As proposed, there are 2 primary entrances to the community, one from Greenfield Road and one from Columbus Drive on the west. The entrances will be gated and the streets within the community will be private. Both access points are currently proposed as full motion access. The plan includes roughly 18% of open space distributed between 2 large amenity areas and a handful of smaller retention areas throughout the development. And with this PAD amendment, the applicant is requesting deviations from the previous approval. Seen here on the screen, outlined in red, are the requested deviations. For the SF10 zoning, the applicant is requesting reduced front and rear setbacks. The front setback was previously approved at a staggered 25 to 30 feet. The LDC does require a 25-foot front setback for this district, but the applicant is now proposing 15 feet for livable and 20 feet for garage. The rear setback was previously approved at 30 feet, consistent with the LDC, and the applicant is requesting to reduce that to 25 feet. For the SF15 zoning district, the applicant is proposing reduced setbacks and increased lot coverage. Increased lot coverage, sorry. The previously approved front setback was a staggered 30 to 35 feet in line with LDC requirements of 30 feet. The applicant is proposing a 20-foot livable and 25-foot garage front setbacks. The previous approval also required a 35-foot rear setback where the LDC only requires 30 feet. I'm sorry, I lost my spot in my notes. The applicant is requesting to modify the previous approval and allow 30-foot rear setbacks to be consistent with what the LDC currently permits. In addition to setback deviations for SF15, the applicant is also proposing to increase the lot coverage percentage from 35% to 40%. Also seen on this screen are items outlined in green. These are the items that are exceeding our requirements. The minimum lot dimensions proposed for SF10 are 90 by 120, where the LDC only requires 85 by 110. The minimum dimensions being proposed for SF15 are 115 by 130, where the LDC only requires 110 by 120. In addition, the open space recommendation for single-family communities is 10%, and the applicant is exceeding that by almost double at 18%. The proposal also limits all homes in the community to single-story level. In addition to these development deviation requests, the applicant would also request a modification to the 50-foot by 250-foot arterial landscape corner. They would still be utilizing the same square footage, they're just requesting a little bit of flexibility on the dimensions. This project was heard at a study session item by the Planning Commission in November. The feedback from the commission was that they generally supported the density, front setback deviations, and arterial landscape deviations. They did have concerns with how many deviations were being requested at the time of the study session, and also with the rear setback deviation due to potential loss of backyard space for the homeowners. An additional concern was with only having one access point, and there was some back and forth conversation during the study session regarding whether or not the site may be overdeveloped. Since then, the applicant has modified their request. They're no longer requesting a deviation on SF15 rear setbacks, but would like that setback to reflect the 30-foot permitted by the LDC. So it's a 5-foot reduction from what their previous PAD allowed. It just brings it into compliance with the LDC standards currently. They've also chosen to limit the entire site to single-story homes and have increased the SF10 lots by an additional 10 feet in depth. Another prominent change is that they have now added 2 access points to the community. and Planning Commission had no additional concerns at the public hearing. Right, at the public hearing earlier in February, a handful of residents did come out to speak. The concerns that they voiced were with the increased traffic that they felt this community would bring to Greenfield Road. They were also concerned with the access point on Columbus out to Pecos, and that it was not at the time full motion access. There was also a comment raised that the residents would like for the developer to improve the entirety of Bonanza, the road to the south, as opposed to just the north side of the road. They would like the entirety of the road developed to be brought into a better quality than it currently exists today. The north side is the only required responsibility of the developer, but they are working with the town to come to an agreement to get the entirety of Bonanza developed. And due to the volume of resident concerns regarding the right-in, right-out only from Pecos that was shown during the Planning Commission hearing, the applicant has since made changes for that access point to be a full motion access. This will be reflected in the pre-plat application that is going to Planning Commission for review on March 5th. And with that, staff does recommend approval of Z2412 and GP 2405, and I am available for any questions that you have.
Thank you, Kristen. Questions, council? Councilmember Bongiovanni.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you bring the map up again? I want to see the entry point on Greenfield. Where is it?
The one on the right is going to be your new proposal.
Is that before or after we go from 3 lanes to 2?
I don't have an answer for that. It should be even with Grandview across the street.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember Kaprowski.
This location is really close to the 202 corridor, which unlocks a lot of potential for our business and employment zoning. So I'm wondering, can you give us some history or background on why staff is supportive of the classification going from the general office and general commercial to residential?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mayor Anderson, Councilmember Kaprowski, the current zoning on this site already exists as SF15 and SF10, and it has since early 2000. Along the way, the general plan land use designation was changed multiple times from that residential to commercial, but the zoning stayed the same. There have been no additional applications or pre-apps or anything on this site to reflect that there has been any additional interest, at least as far as the town is aware. So them amending the general plan is really just to bring it back into conformance with what the zoning already is.
Understood, thank you.
All right, so I understand the zoning is currently SF15 and SF10? It's not general office and general commercial?
Yes, so Mayor Anderson, Councilmember Torgerson, that is correct. The zoning is SF10 and SF15 with a small 1.5 acre piece of SF35 that was left out of the previous approval in 2000. So this amendment that's coming forward today is to incorporate that SF35 piece to be SF10.
Right, and actually upgrade it to SF10 or 15?
Yes, SF10.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are not, nobody's asking to rezone commercial to
Correct.
residential?
Correct. It is already zoned
Not that
residential.
clear. All right, thank you.
They could develop residential on it like this as is. The general plan amendment is just to bring it into conformity.
Councilmember Bongiovanni.
Oh, sorry about that, Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions?
And just
Vice
to add,
Mayor?
I'm so sorry, just to add to my response to Councilmember Kaprowski, it is compatible with the surrounding land uses as well, so that's part of the reason why staff is supportive of just modifying the
I do have one, Scott.
the designations.
Vice Mayor.
Okay, so I have a question. I'm a little bit confused when you're saying that we're not, because this, what I'm reading, it says that you want to change from general office and general commercial to residential. And am I reading that incorrect? Because that's what's written here.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, the underlying zoning is currently single-family zoning. That is not changing. What is being changed is the general plan designation on the property. Occasionally through town, there will be different land uses that have a different zoning than what the general plan says. The zoning is what runs with the land. So they are completely within their rights to redevelop or to develop this property in a single-family fashion. But through this development, they've chosen to amend the general plan to match that existing zoning. So what you're reading is correct, but it's correct on a general plan level, not a zoning level. And to Councilmember Torgerson's point, there is no reduction of commercially zoned property on this site at all. It's all currently zoned single family.
But you're saying on the general plan, it is zoned general office and
The general
commercial.
plan classification is general office.
So that's what it's supposed to be.
Well,
I'm
that's,
just
yeah, that's why
trying to get under the double talk here.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Mayor, Vice Mayor, that's why the zoning runs with the land. The general plan is what is showing the classifications that were approved previously, but the zoning was never changed at that time. The zoning has always remained single family.
Okay, so that zoning has never, ever been changed?
No, that's since 2000, yeah.
So if that's the case, why do we notate in here that, does that have to be notated because it's on the general plan?
Yeah, what we would like to have is for the general plan classifications to match the zoning classifications. And that's what the applicant is doing in this process, making those two marry up together so it's the same.
Okay, I just want to assure that we're not taking commercial and general office land and making it residential, because it kind of alludes to that in everything that's written here. So, because I can't do that. I can't, support changing anything from commercial anymore, because
Mayor, Vice Mayor, that is correct.
For reasons yeah.
Yeah, we are following council's previous direction and not changing any commercial land use at all to a residential designation. It's already a residential designation.
Okay, all right. I get it, but I'm still not really comfortable with it.
Yeah, sure. Another example is just down the street at Greenfield and Germain, the northeast corner. That is developed residentially right now, but it's shown on our general plan as something else. So there, like I said, there's a couple different places in town where for some reason the zoning and the general plan don't align. Or if the general plan was being changed previously, like in this case, the town initiated the general plan amendment, the property owners weren't on board with changing the zoning at that time, so it always remained as a single-family designation.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Which oftentimes does happen every time we do the general plan. Those kinds of things happen.
Right. And Mayor, as you well know, the zoning runs with the land. That's really what entitles it and gives it the development allowances.
Right.
I have one more question. So if the zoning runs with the land, why was it even put for commercial on the plan?
Back, it was probably 15 years ago or so, there was a lot of pressure going on around the hospital in this area. We were getting a lot of small lots coming in that wanted to change from residential to commercial. So we did an area master plan that extended from the hospital clear to Greenfield. And at that time, all these property owners, I think except one, agreed to make these changes to the general plan. Not everybody changed their zoning, but everybody changed the general plan. So we went forward with that small area master plan. And you can see the development that's occurred around the hospital with doing that on some of the residential land. This one stayed single-family zoned. There was never any development pressure on it. There was a previous development plan that was approved on it, but it was never constructed. And so it just never materialized the way that small area plan had envisioned it. So this applicant is coming back forward to exercise the rights under the existing zoning to develop it residentially.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilmember Bongiovanni.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you go back to the other slide you just had? That's what I really wanted to see the first time. There we go, okay. So you're saying the entrance is across from Grandview?
Yes, Councilmember Bongiovanni, that is correct.
So we're going from 3 lanes to 2 lanes to assuming that we're going to be stopping in the right-hand lane to make a right-hand turn. And I know this area real well because I'm usually the guy in the third lane trying to cut in front of the second lane. So by the time you get to that second lane, you're going to have traffic stopping. And that concerns me greatly because that's a bottleneck that I think someone should have taken a look at. Well, I guess we're not going to change it to 3 lanes over there, but that concerns me. Thanks.
Councilmember Kaprowski.
Kyle, going back to the question of the general plan, the work for the general plan, that ends up being a voter-approved document. How do we, in the future, better align our properties to what that has? Or like, what are the steps that would be best in terms of aligning properties with the general plan?
Sure, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Kaprowski. As I mentioned, it doesn't happen that often. There's probably, I can think of 2 properties in the town where the general plan and the zoning didn't match. This one got a little bit out of step because of the small area general plan that we did. However, then we did the 2020 voter-approved general plan, and at that time, we could have changed those 2, but didn't because of the previous plan. Going forward, when we look at the general plan in 2030, we will go back through the land use maps and look at the zoning maps and then see if there's any others that are not aligned. And at that point in time, visit with the property owners and see about making the zoning and the general plan match up as we adopt that new general plan.
Okay. I just have a lot of concerns with this particular parcel being such a prime location. But could you remind me when the previous PAD was approved?
Sure. So Mayor Anderson, Councilmember Kaprowski, it was approved in 2000. I don't have it on a slide. I'm sorry. That's in my notes. It was approved in 2000.
Thank you. And to Councilmember Bongiovanni's question regarding the entrance off of Greenfield, will this site be building any off-site improvements for Greenfield Road, and will they be installing a dedicated right turn lane into their development?
Yes, so they're doing a right turn lane, but no additional improvements as far as I'm aware. The applicant might be able to elaborate on that answer. They do have a presentation as well.
No, excellent, thank you.
Councilmember Lyons, do you have any questions for staff?
Not at this time, I do not.
Thank you. We'll ask the applicant to come up now.
Thank you.
There we go. Mayor, council members, my name is Sean Lake, 1744 South Val Vista, here on behalf of Tri-Point Homes. We appreciate the opportunity to be before you. I've got a presentation that I'll go through, but we do have a dedicated right turn lane to come into the project off of Greenfield so as to not back up traffic onto Greenfield as it does. So I wanted to hit that one right off the chutes. We appreciate the chance to be here. As staff pointed out, this property is located directly west of the LDS Temple. This area is a little bit different. We got the park on the north side. We have larger lots, single-family residential on the west side. We have larger lots, single-family residential on the south side. We have the LDS Temple and a master plan residential community on the east side. Katie Corner, you've got various different developments, including residential developments. But around generally in this area, you have, it's a different feel than it is on the other side of the freeway, which is a very large master plan community, master plan commercial development with a lot of commercial going in and around that area, kind of north and to the west of this site. The property is about 34 acres, and staff did a good job explaining what we are proposing to do. So I'll skip through these slides. The general plan, we're just changing it back to be consistent with the existing zoning, the legal right that currently exists on the property. That's what we're doing. As this was not a property owner-initiated general plan that changed it to commercial. It was the town-initiated general plan that was imposed upon the property owners. So that makes it a little bit different. As staff pointed out, really what we're doing is we're trying to incorporate the carve-out piece. So when this project was originally planned and platted, preliminary platted, the homestead was carved out. The homestead's not there anymore, and so the homestead's not being carved out. So we're incorporating that homestead property into this plan and keeping the existing zoning, keeping the buffers around the perimeter that were originally part of the plan in 2000 over the last quarter century. I'd like to say that. It's 25 years, but quarter century sounds longer. It's the same thing. But that's really what we're proposing is something very similar to what was previously approved. You'll notice on this this is our plat. Not sure how that snuck in there, but let's go to this site. So this is the plan, very similar to what was approved in the 2000, the pre-plat, where there's an access off of Pecos, there's an access off of Greenfield. Now let me point out, at Planning Commission there was a lot of discussion about the access on Pecos Road. Currently, our project will go out to Columbus, and then Columbus has a access out to Pecos Road. So we'll go from our neighborhood to Columbus, a collector, from Columbus out to Pecos Road. There's a raised median that currently exists in Pecos Road, a landscape median there. Several neighbors showed up and wanted us to modify the median to provide a full turning movement. And we committed at that time, which is condition number F on the recommended conditions of approval as recommended by staff and the Planning Commission, to work, no, it's not F, it's a different one, but to work with staff on that. So we have submitted a plan. We show a proposed, you can see up in the corner, if you could read that. I can't, it's too far away. But up in the corner where that red circle is, we're proposing a full axis turning movement if we can prove up with the transportation department that we can make the line of sight work, which is what the neighbors want us to do. They want us to have a left in, a left out, a right in, a right out. We're okay with modifying that if the town, pardon me, will allow us to do that in the town's right-of-way. It's not our right-of-way, it's the town's right-of-way. So if the town will allow us and we can meet all of the qualifications, we agree to do that. And that was a primary issue that the neighbors would like to see from the Planning Commission. So we have updated the plan, submitted it to staff to show that proposed access there. Staff went through the development standards. I wanted to go through. We do meet the mission of the town. And so we have gone through this, and I've listed out. I'm struggling here, so I'm not going to read every single one. I apologize. Normally I would. But we do meet the values of the town. We have worked extensively with the neighborhood group and with the town staff to try to make a project that works. There's a current project that's approved at 1.97 units per acre. We're trying to do the exact same project at 1.9. So over 25 years, we're reducing the density effectively because we've added more land to the same number of lots. We think this is a great project. We think the feel in this area, directly adjacent to large lot residential, right across from the LDS Temple, which gives a different feel, is going to be a tremendous project that I think people will be proud of as they go in to look at this high-end luxury community with very nice homes. We think it will do very, very well in this area. We think it's a little bit different as you get closer to the commercial. I agree. We need to protect that area over there. But as you get further and further towards and up adjacent to where we are by the temple, we think that creates a different feel, and we think the neighbors would support this much better. So we think this is a good project. We think it does meet the values for the town, the mission and values for the town, and it's a good project. And so we would request your your approval of this general plan and rezoning case with the conditions that staff and the Planning Commission recommended. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the applicant?
I'm broken.
Councilmember Bongiovanni.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lake, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fairly well.
Good. Can you go back to your map again? Okay, I feel like I'm a traffic cop tonight, I feel like. I'm concerned about left-hand turns now from the Greenfield. Again, we're going from 3 lanes to 2 lanes and then a 3rd lane for the right-hand turn. But for the left-hand turn, I don't believe there's a median there. I just have concerns about that left-hand, just because I know this area very, very well. You've got 3 lanes merged into 2 lanes, and now we're going to have another lane to turn right. That's awesome. I'm glad you guys thought of that. But the left-hand turn, if you have a car in the right-hand lane turning into the property, you have another car turning left with someone in that right-hand lane, they're going to be just blind on that turn. Is there any consideration to making that a right-hand turn only without messing up the traffic studies?
Mayor, Councilmember Bongiovanni, so are we talking about a northbound traffic taking a left into the project?
Talked about, no, leaving the project.
So leaving the
on
project
Greenfield Road, going
to go north on
north.
Greenfield Road.
Yeah.
So you will notice our entrance aligns directly with Grandview, and all the off-site improvements are complete to the town's standards.
Okay.
So there is a break in the median at that point because Grandview has a full turning movement. And so I'm not sure how you restrict one side of the street to be a limited access while the other side of the street directly across has full access. We did do a traffic study, and we submitted to the town's traffic engineer, and there aren't failed turning movements. But as you get to the traffic signal, there will be breaks in traffic that will be caused by the traffic signal just up the road. You're correct that it does go from a 3 down to a 2, and I'm not sure if it's at the first E or the second E of Greenfield Road on this map, but it does go down to. Part of the reasons why we have created the full turning movement proposal up on Pecos was that this was raised by the neighbors at the Planning Commission meeting. And so after that meeting, we agreed to go work with staff and to modify that meeting. And so that's what we're working through right now with staff, so that you are able to have a left out at Pecos and a left in. And if somebody doesn't want to do that movement on Greenfield Road, a left out, they can always go to Columbus, take a right on Pecos, and then a left at a controlled traffic intersection, which is a much safer turning movement, quite frankly.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Councilmember Lyons, do you have any questions?
No, I think that they've been answered thus far. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll ask you back up if we need
I
to.
got one more, Scott.
Nope.
Mayor.
Councilmember Bongiovanni.
Normally you guys show us pictures of the homes, what they're going to look like. Do you have anything like that?
I can't remember if I put any in this. Oh, no, I just put a video of the Bonanza to the south. I don't have any pictures of the homes.
Pricing of the homes, what are we looking at?
No. Oh, there we go.
And mayor's member of the council, they are from 3,500 to 4,800 square feet, and they'll be in the low to mid-millions starting.
Could you identify who you are?
I'm Megan Neal with Tri Point Homes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one request to speak card from Darren Hughes. Darren, come forward and state your name, place of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Town Council. My name is Darren Hughes, and I live at 3409 South 159th Street, which is directly adjacent to this proposed development. I commend Mr. Lake and the developer for listening to the residents. They have done that, and they've taken our comments and incorporated them into the community that they're proposing. I'm here tonight to urge you to uphold the current zoning requirement for the SF-15 of the rear setback of 35 feet along the south and west boundaries of this project. They're requesting a reduction to 30 feet, but I strongly believe maintaining the existing setback is in the best interest of the community. Here's why. The neighborhoods to the south and west consist of 1-acre home sites. When the original zoning for the development was established in the year 2000, it faced opposition. To address these concerns and create a transition zone between the larger and the smaller home sites, specific zoning accommodations were put in place. These included the larger home sites of a 1/3 acre around the south and west, limiting them to single-story homes, and a 35-foot rear setback. The developer is honoring the first two conditions, but is now seeking to reduce the rear setbacks to 30 feet. This change is unnecessary. Even with the current 35-foot rear setback, the builder will still have more than enough space, exceeding the buildable area on each of the lot by over 600 square feet. The 35-foot rear setback was a critical component of the original zoning agreement, ensuring a smooth transition between neighborhoods and preserving the character of the surrounding area. The developer has no practical need to change it. I urge you to honor the commitment made to the residents and uphold the current zoning and preserve the 35-foot rear setback for the 1/3 acre lots along the south and west boundaries of the community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Any questions? We'll bring the applicant back up and have him address Mr. Hughes's comments.
Mayor, council members, the 30-foot rear yard setback was chosen because that is what the code currently is today. We do have the single story around the perimeter, and we have held to that, but the SF-15 zoning district has a 30-foot rear yard setback. And so that's what we had selected.
But are you able to go to 35?
We haven't looked at it, quite honestly. I'm looking to Megan for help, because these are all larger single-story homes, and there might be some of the bigger product, the larger homes that won't be able to fit that.
Mayor, members of the council, we are looking to fit a larger home. That is something we did hear from the neighbors, and that is that 4,800 square foot home that we're hoping to bring as a single-family option. These are deeper lots that we were discussing than what was previously on the previously approved plat or zoning. So we were able to extend the depth of the lots on the west side as well, and the south side.
And we're also on the south side, we will be developing Bonanza. We're not accessing Bonanza as well, so we're improving Bonanza. So outside of our wall, we will have landscaping, sidewalk, curb gutter, the street width, which we're going to, that's condition number F that I was referring to earlier. We will be milling and then re-overlaying Bonanza, which we are not accessing. We don't use, and will add zero traffic to. And then finishing off the south edge of the road with a ribbon curb to finish off that road. So we're making substantial improvements, and we'll have curb gutter sidewalk, which is a pathway trail along Bonanza, and landscaping until we get to our wall property line, and then we'll have that 30 feet of setback. So that's our request. We think that is a fair and reasonable, given that that's the current code and what's transpiring after our lot line, outside of our wall. Creates a rather large setback.
Thank you. Councilmember Bongiovanni.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lake, is this a gated community or just a good-looking picture?
This is a gated community.
Okay, thank you.
And a good-looking picture.
Councilmember Kaprowski.
I have a question for staff.
Staff, Kristen.
And this may need to be answered by Kyle. I'm not sure. But with the new state legislation, are these rear setbacks that we're even talking about a moot point regarding the accessory dwelling units?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, that's an excellent question. I don't know if any of that legislation has been finalized at this point. If it is, I'm not aware of it, so I don't think that it impacts this development at this time at all.
I'm going to ask Rob or Amy if they are aware of anything's going on with that legislation.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I do not believe anything would directly impact this that's passed previously or even anything that's necessarily in the works now, because it would more be for somebody that's looking to develop a different type of structure. So this would still be a product that would be available or that would be, you know, fully developable. And shouldn't be impacted by anything that's out there, unless you had something specific, Councilmember Krabrowski, that you were thinking of.
I'm just thinking of with development that is built this year and into the future, when these properties are then sold, does that owner have the right to add to their property under the new state legislation?
Okay, yeah, Mayor, Councilmember Krabrowski. So you're thinking more of the accessory dwelling units, like within the lot. So yes, so with the legislation that passed related to the accessory dwelling units, then exactly what you're saying. Down the road, then there would be, because of the size of the lots, there would be they would have the ability to put those accessory dwelling units, just like anybody else would really throughout the town with the size of the lot, would be able to develop those extra units if they chose to do so.
Thank you.
Councilmember Torgerson.
I'm assuming this is going to be an HOA community, correct?
Mayor, Councilmember Torgerson, yes, this will be an HOA community.
Would accessory dwelling units, because the only thing that can control that would be an HOA.
Correct.
Would accessory dwelling units be allowed by the HOA or forbidden by the HOA?
The CCNRs haven't been written. I don't think they've gone that far yet. I'm just thinking through.
No,
I live in a custom neighborhood, and as we don't prohibit them, and they don't have to comply with setbacks. ADUs, well, there's limited. It's a lot more reduced setback. And so we could talk all we want here about 5 feet on a $1.5 million home, and then at the end of the day, somebody could just exercise their right under the ADU statute and go put a detached accessory structure right near the property line, and then everybody goes kicking and screaming when everybody in the state now has that right. So.
Right, so it's just, if
It's just the HOA and what the HOA decides to do.
Yeah. And then the other question I have is, 35 or 30 feet, it's a number, but what is it trying to actually mitigate? What's the actual problem? The actual problem isn't 5 feet. The actual problem is privacy, is it noise? What is the actual problem?
The actual problem is when you have single-story homes, they have a larger building footprint. And when you you have a front yard setback and you have a rear yard setback and 2 side yard setbacks, and you have to fit that building envelope within those setbacks. And so when you start to reduce those setbacks, you have to shrink the home to fit that. And so you might not be able to fit the 48 or the 45 or the 43, but you can fit the 3,900 square foot home.
I understand. I'm looking at it from the other side of it. What is it that is bothering the neighbors that you can mitigate that's between 30 and 35 feet? What is their concern? Because they really probably don't care what somebody's spending $1.5 million. I'm sure they're very cognizant of what their backyard looks like. But what is the impact to the neighbors across Bonanza that's a difference for them? Has that been addressed at all?
we can certainly talk with the neighbors between now going forward. I mean, that's going to be a continued process, particularly with the improvements of Bonanza Road. And maybe what we do is we look along Bonanza, because we're going to have a landscape strip outside of our wall. So, and maybe we look to install some landscaping and trees that have more of a dense foliage or a different species of tree that creates that visual buffer block, if you will, to the homes. And so I think that might be accomplished. I'm not sure the difference between 30 and 35 feet, but if we can put up a tree, you're not going to know. And
That's
so I
kind of my
think that would
point,
be
so-
something we'd be willing to work with the neighbors on doing.
Right, my point is the neighbors have some concern, it's something, and most people walking around can't see the difference between 30 and 35 feet. So what is it that's bothering them that needs to be addressed? It's not a foot issue, it's something, but it's not actually a foot issue. Does that make sense to you?
It does.
Okay. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Councilmember Lyons, you have any questions?
No, I think Mr. Lake has addressed them very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for discussion and possible action.
Mayor,
Councilmember Buckland.
for discussion or comments. So in listening to all this, I would love for that to be commercial, but it's not, right? It's zoned for what they're asking. I hope that we do align the general plan and the zoning, because I don't think that, creates confusion and fear of lack of transparency. So I think we'll shore that up. I'm glad it was just a couple of things and it was clarified here. I think the bigger thing that I'm seeing is that the property owner is trying to do with their property what it's zoned for, and they have made not all of the concessions, but I think reasonable concessions, especially dropping to single story, which does require some compromise for the square footage. So I can understand that very well. I think that I like the dialogue that's gone back and forth, listening to the surrounding neighbors. But at the end of the day, I think that I feel that the property owner has made significant concessions, and it is their property, and it is zoned for that. So I am satisfied.
Other discussion?
Mayor, this is Councilman Lyons.
Go ahead.
May I speak? Yeah. One of the things that I think we do need to look at going forward to address Councilman Bon Giovanni's concern about traffic, there are certain streets within the town where we have these lane constrictions, and with the current flow of traffic and the growth of the community, I can see and am seeing, issues. So as we look at these, I think it might be important for us to take a look at the general plan overall and identify those kind of constraints, and maybe be looking at putting some type of study in place to see where we can address those deficiencies.
Thank you. Other discussion? Anybody have a motion they'd like to make?
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve as written with the concessions that the owner has agreed to.
I second that.
Been moved by Councilmember Buckland, seconded by the Vice Mayor. Please vote by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I received a request from Councilmember Torgerson for a brief presentation from staff on items on the consent agenda. And items number, we're going to pull right now items number 8 through 11 and items number 13 through 35. Or 34, 35. So can I have a staff presentation, please? Staff, if you could let me know which items you're addressing so I can check those off, I would appreciate that.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Yes, we will be covering all of the items, not in order on the agenda, but so that each speaker can speak to a group of items at the same time instead of having like a merry-go-round of people coming up. So I'll let you know as each person goes. They'll let you know which items they're speaking to. So I was the designated introducer since I'm the first one with an agenda item on there. So the first item is item number 8, and this is a CIP project to address just several different capital improvements at the Greenfield Water Reclamation Plant. This is our proportional share of those improvements that are being made under an IGA that we have with Mesa and Queen Creek for the operation and maintenance of that facility. This is just part of our regular maintenance and replacement activities that happen there throughout the course of the plant life cycle, and is being funded by both our water replacement fund, or wastewater replacement fund, and the wastewater fund in general. The next item is item number 17, which is improvements at the McQueen and Elliott intersection. This will be adding different lanes to that intersection, expanding it to add capacity, improve safety, and improve congestion in that area. It's being funded by our transportation bonds, some funding through MAG, as well as Roads SDF to account for the added capacity that will be included with that project. Item number 18 is general utilities job order contract. So we have several of these on the agenda tonight, and these are blanket contracts that we award to multiple contractors that have set pricing and set activities that they are selected for based on their qualifications. And it just gives us a set of contracts that we can go to whenever we have a smaller job that we would like to procure or start without having to go through a procurement process every single time. And we have a few of those that I'll point out as we get on this agenda as well. But so this first batch of job order contracts is for general utilities, which are basically underground water lines, sewer lines, things of that nature. These contracts themselves don't have any funding sources tied to them until we actually award task orders underneath those JOCs. So as those task orders then still will come to council for the actual funding and which specific funding source gets used for each of those projects. The next item is item number 19. This is the signal at American Heroes Way and Gilbert Road. There's some work happening right now to get the fiber and the poles installed, and then this is a second piece of that contract to do the asphalt work to complete that intersection, and this is being to allow for full access in and out of that with all the development that's happening right on the corner. It'll give them another controlled access into that development, and it's being funded by our traffic signals system development fees. The next item is item number 20, and this is another one of those master job order contracts, and this is just for general building and facility services. So all of the contractors under this particular JOC have a specific specialization in building and facilities type projects. And again, there's no funding source tied to that until task orders are awarded underneath that JOC. Item number 21 is related to our water resiliency, our wells development program. So this is work that's going to be done to design and install a pipeline that will allow one well site to be transmitted to another well site to allow for blending for water quality improvement. This is part of our ongoing wells water resiliency program development and is being paid for out of the water fund. This is one of the wells at system development fees as well, and then our water WRMPC bonds. Item number 22 is our Rancho Del Verde lift station improvements. This is located down at Gilbert and Ray. This is part of our wastewater rehabilitation project for both our force mains. That's part of the ongoing conversations we've had around our wastewater infrastructure needs, as well as making some improvements to the structures that the wastewater flow into to help reduce odors and things of that nature. This is actually a project that's being awarded under one of the previously mentioned JOCs, because it's a little bit lower dollar value project that we can award more quickly and get moving. And this is being funded out of the Wastewater Replacement Fund. Item number 23 is another one you've heard a lot about. This is those 4 different locations where we had the ductile iron pipe underneath the freeway that's being rehabilitated. This is also being awarded under a JOC. That's one of the benefits of the JOCs as well, is that when we have emergency type situations, we already have contractors selected that are qualified that we can award contracts to help facilitate the expedient completion of those projects. So this is the total cost for that is $2.6 million. As we mentioned, these types of semi-emergency repairs can be quite expensive, but the impact of a catastrophic failure would be far greater. So this is the total contract for construction, engineering, and PMCM for those 4 ductile iron force main, or not force mains, but ductile iron lines that are running underneath the freeway. That's also being funded by Wastewater Replacement Fund. Item number 24 is another set of blanket JOC contracts, and these are related to water and wastewater treatment and remote facilities, which would be our wells, reservoirs, booster pump stations, things of that nature. It's just a different type of specialization for these contractors because they're working in treatment facilities as opposed to like horizontal pipeline type work. They're more specialized in nature. And again, no funding source tied to these until task orders are actually awarded underneath the JOCs for these projects. Item number 25 is another JOC. This is for SCADA, which is our supervisory control and data acquisition. It's what allows us to remotely control all of the water plants and the remote well sites and things of that via a centralized computer system. So this is just another set of specialized contracts for that specific support service for both programming and instrumentation that allows us to communicate with those different remote sites. Items number 26 and 27, this is related to the Southeast Regional Library location and the Riparian Education Center, as well as the parking lot circulation. So this is for a master concept plan that will look at the programming for the Riparian Education Center, as well as the site as a whole, what the site will look like, where that facility will go, what additional parking is needed, and how the parking that's already there can be improved for better circulation and improved capacity. And these are being funded by the general fund. Item number 28 is a project at our Neely Water Reclamation Plant. This is to do some rehab and replacement of the odor control system that's at that facility, so we can be good neighbors to the surrounding communities at that facility. That odor control system has reached the end of its useful life and is being replaced, also under one of those job order contracts. Is funded by our Wastewater Replacement Fund. Item number 29 is Arizona Pump Resources. This is just a cooperative purchasing. It's adding some money to a contract that we already have in our water operations. They use this company to outsource when they have pump and motor maintenance that's kind of outside of our staff's capabilities. It requires specialized equipment to complete that we don't own because we don't have to do it that often, or we don't have the capacity just due to workload. So this is just increasing the amount of money on that contract due to cost escalation to make sure we have enough money to cover that. And it's paid for just out of our water operating fund. I think this is my last one. Item number 30 is the Vaughn ventilator. This is a change order to the design contract for this, because we have the Vaughn ventilator, which is the roadway itself that's going to add that secondary access point into the Heritage District and improve circulation there. Part of that project is also the relocation of the stormwater retention basin that's currently located on Vaughn Avenue to newly acquired property on the south side of the railroad tracks. Those were two separate projects, and this change order is just adding the design of that retention basin into the Vaughn ventilator project. And that stormwater is really important because it centralizes the stormwater management in the Heritage District and allows for kind of optimum development of the remaining land in that area. And this is being funded by our transportation bonds as part of the roadway, and the stormwater project is related to the roadway. And now I'll turn it over to...
Was, Jessica,
Oh, sorry, did you, yes.
Was that item 30?
That was item 30, yes.
Okay, so that was item 30 that you just did? Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Vice Mayor? I have a question. I have a question for.
Oh, okay, Jessica, I'm sorry, Councilmember Bon Giovanni would like to ask a question.
Apologies, yes.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Under some of the funding sources now, we all know what a system development fee is. You all know what a system development fee is, but I'm willing to bet that citizens don't know what that is. So could you please give us a little rundown on what a system development fee is?
Sure. The system development fee is just a fee that any new construction pays when they come into town, and it's based on their impact to our system. They pay for, but they buy into the water system, they buy into the sewer system. The one we talked about here, they pay for the traffic signals that are directly related to the impact that they're having on the transportation network. So that's just anything that new growth, whether it's a business or a single family home, when they get their permits, they pay into that system.
Gas stations, apartments, anything that wants to get built pays this fee.
Yes.
Thank you.
Jessica, I want to thank you for taking your time, because I know you're here at night when you're normally not here to do this. But your explanations were clear enough and concise enough, and this fulfills the point of why I wanted you to say things, because so many people don't understand where the wastewater fee goes or the sewer fee, or they see a contract that says it's $15 million, and they don't realize it's just the ability to use up to that much. It's not there. And it's allowing some transparency to how this works. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's never a question of whether you've done a good job, because I believe you're a star to me. I just appreciate you took the time to make it clear and concise so people understand there's money going to this, so we can sleeve these things right away. We're putting money here, and I really appreciate you taking the time for that, because it also helps people. More people are getting more engaged and looking and wondering what's happening. And this used to go with just a yes, 7-0, yes, we consent. And this few moments makes a lot of difference to a lot of people. So I thank you for taking the time.
Mayor, Councilmember Torgerson, thank you. Happy to do it and appreciate being given the opportunity to highlight all the great work that our teams are doing. So,
Okay. Does anyone else have a question? Are we good? All right. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Mayor, Council, number 9 is the Park and Ride IGA between us and Valley Metro for design and construction of that Park and Ride facility. Once the facility is built, it would provide express services for folks in southern Gilbert to get to and from jobs in downtown Phoenix. The contract itself is a not-to-exceed budget of $5.2 million, and that is being paid with regional funds. There is no cost to the town anticipated for this project.
Is that your only one?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay. Does anyone have a question? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Hawken Johansson, Finance Director. I've got the next 3, I think, here. So item 10 is where we're at. This is for a contract to allow staff to purchase goods that they might need from Lowe's. And so anytime we're spending more than $100,000 somewhere over the year, we have to have a contract. And so this does not obligate us to use Lowe's to purchase it, but it does allow staff to leverage a much larger contract and get pricing that is not equal to someone who spends $100,000. So this is actually an excellent thing to help us there. And the expenditures would be paid by whichever department is using that contract. Next, item 11, PFM Asset Management. These are investment advisors. So this is a consultant firm that helps assist the town in managing its cash on hand and investing it with the focus on maintaining the security of it, so risk assessment, making sure we have access to it, which is the liquidity portion, and then, yes, getting a return on that investment. This contract, the first year, it was competitively bid recently, but there is cost savings of $250,000 over what we typically pay for these services. And so good to re-sign this contract and using that competitively bid contract. The expenses are offset by revenue earned, interest earned, and that is all allocated out pro rata. So whichever funds have fund balances, those can earn interest. If a fund does not have a fund balance, it would not be a part of this. Item 12, Columbia Capital Management. This is a contract for financial advisory services relating to the municipal bond market is the easiest. So anything dealing with...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
I think maybe, I'll have to ask the mayor that, this is the one that Buckland's pulling off. So.
Okay.
Sorry, this one's been pulled off of the agenda.
Okay.
For a separate talk. So
No worries.
if we can do that
Absolutely.
after, would
No
be great.
problem. Happy to. Those are the three, so I'm happy to come back later and answer any questions. So.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Questions? Okay, thank you so much.
My turn. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have item number 13. So this is a cooperative purchasing contract to provide landscape, sprinkler, and irrigation services, materials, and equipment, and allow the department to streamline the purchasing process. This is a not-to-exceed contract, so all of the funds used to make these purchases are in our current operating budget. Questions?
Is that the only one for you as well? Okay, does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The next contract is item 14. This is with Comfort Systems USA. They are a HVAC vendor that we utilize for both emergency repairs and preventative measures in our mechanical systems in all the town buildings and facilities. These facilities include our police stations, fire stations, public works yards, libraries, recreation centers. So we fund any necessary repairs out of each one of those buildings' repair and replacement funds. Then the next item is similar in nature. This is with Valleywide Generator. We're extending a contract that we utilize that services our emergency backup generators at all of our critical buildings, police stations, fire stations, things like that. This work has to be done by a licensed specialist, and so that's why we utilize this service. It's also funded from each one of those buildings' maintenance and operation funds.
Okay, was that item 15?
Yes, that was item 15.
Okay, I want to make sure. And is that all for you?
Yep.
Okay, does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Councilmember Bongiovanni?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Rocky, so how does one come up with not to exceed 1.5 million? Is that like past years' numbers, or how do you guys come up with that?
Yeah, Mayor, council member. So we have an existing budget. We do our best to predict what will break, but we also have our LRIP funds, so we kind of have a combination of the both. We do trend and do 3-year data to make sure we're doing our zero-based accounting every year and kind of have a predictive a predictive idea of what's coming up. We also try to have a couple different vendors, so it's a not to exceed amount, but sometimes we use up our main vendor a lot. We need a backup vendor, and we just kind of use who's available and can do the work and who can also source the equipment that we need. When it gets to summertime, sometimes you need to get the best service provider in there as quickly as possible, and so we want to have a couple different options.
So just because we're seeing 1.5 here, it could be 800,000, not the whole 1.5.
Yeah, absolutely, yep.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be speaking to item number 16, which is a donation agreement with Seek Thermal, Inc. They have offered to donate 3 thermal imaging cameras to Gilbert Fire and Rescue Department with no consideration from the town. The thermal imaging camera is a vital tool in the delivery of our service by our men and women in the fire department, and also an important training adjunct. Retail value of these thermal imaging cameras is about $6,400.
Okay, is that the only item?
That is the only
Okay.
item.
Anyone have any questions? Councilmember Torgerson?
Shouldn't we be thanking them somehow? Because it's not often people give the residents
We are
something.
certainly appreciative of this opportunity to impact the safety and the effectiveness of our crews.
All right, well, thank you for taking your time tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I heard a voice from above. We good? Okay.
We're good, yeah. No more questions.
Councilmember
Solberg,
Lyons is online.
Okay.
Pardon me?
Councilmember Lyons.
Oh, Councilmember Lyons. Do you have any questions on the last
Well,
one?
I did have a question for the previous speaker. I just wanted to understand why, out of the goodness of their heart, that they were donating to us
Forgot him.
the cameras.
You know, I think it would be speculative on my part to state exactly why they want to do it. I do know that they have a program, and they offer this service to a number of fire departments across the nation. And they reached out to us and to gauge our interest in participating.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lyons, did you have another question for someone else?
No, Vice Mayor, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Mike Solberg, Police Chief, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. 3 items for you. The first slide has 2 items, item 31 and item 32. Both of these items are for ammunition. We have 2 different contracts. One was with MyWall Corporation, and that is for our duty ammunition. We will be using a City of Mesa contract for that. The second is for our practice ammunition, which is called frangible ammunition. That's item 32. And that is off a state contract with the state of Arizona. Both of these contracts allow us to purchase ammunition that we need throughout the year for both our in-service, for our carry, for on-duty, and as well as our training for both the frangible and the what we call a live round or a duty round, for both our academy training and our in-service training that we do throughout the year that's required of us. Any question on that item?
Okay, anyone else?
Okay, my last item is our contingency request, 4.1 million, 4.175. And this is divided into 2 different categories. The first being our overtime call out and standby. High-level oversight on this is we have seen an increasing gap in our, we have not kept up our budget with our expenses for our hourly rates. So as we've had increases in our pay, we have not been appropriately submitting the budget packages. That is not the fault of budget. That is, we have been asking for money. We go through that budget process, but in review of our last 3 years, we have not been asking for the adequate amount to match the gap that we've had. So that's why you're seeing this before you, and we've addressed that in our FY26, which you will see in the near future to address that for next year. We have looked at and we will be doing zero-based this summer as we prepare for FY27. But using that same methodology of looking at our last 3 years, that's how we came up with this number and the projection for next year's anticipated budget for FY26. A lot of the overtime is driven by our vacancies. As we sit today, we have 24 vacancies. Those numbers fluctuate every week. We had 24 sworn vacancies, and we have roughly 23 civilian vacancies, professional staff. However, the good side of that is we are constantly working on hiring. We will have an academy class that will be starting next month, and we have 20 recruits scheduled to attend that. So as of March 7th, our current vacancy rates will go down to 12 sworn officers and roughly 11 or 12 of professional staff with the hiring that we're doing on that end. So a lot of the majority of the overtime that you're seeing is due to vacancy shortages. We did break down some of the special events, roughly 87,000. Whether it's a holiday event, that it's a town-sponsored event, we, for the security and the officers that are working that comes out of the police department's budget. Additionally, some special events, our fall break detail, focusing on teen violence and making sure our community remains safe. That is a small portion of that amount as well. The big driving factor, as I mentioned, is that we have not been keeping up with our budget asks and the approvals, and we are working to rectify that for next year, and we'll continue to do that as we continue forward with our zero-based budgeting over this next year. The last portion that you see is the Maricopa County Jail and Housing. So we do our best based on the estimates they provide us, usually around January, late January. They give us our actual costs for the next year. And so with our actual rate, it's an average increase of 7.02% in our costs. And so with that increase, which is into effect with this budget year, we are going to be short of $456,280 for this year. With that new rate, we have made a budget request for the next year of $583,000 to accommodate that increase. But once again, that rate changes, and we do our best to work with the county on what that projected rate increase will be. And so that rate for next year accommodates that projected increase rate. Any questions for me?
Okay, the last part was item 34.
Item 33.
33.
If
And you don't have item 34? Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions for the chief?
Yeah, I assume we're going to see this in a couple of the upcoming financial retreats, some of the things you're talking about here.
Not over the next few days, no, not this topic. You will see more details on the overtime and the budget when we have the briefings and the explanations and the future council meetings on the budget.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you
Vice
very much.
Mayor Buckley,
Councilmember Lyons.
Chief, do we know how much savings we would be able to realize in overtime if we filled these staff positions?
So we had that discussion this year, and we have it each year. The more people you add, you can reduce some of that overtime because you're filling those vacancies, you're filling those shortages. 2 points on this. One, we will never go below our staffing levels. We will always keep our officers safe, our community safe. So if we're due to military leave, FMLA, sick time, training time, vacation time, we manage that with our officers and our professional staff. But especially for patrol, if due to circumstances we go below our critical staffing, we will cover that with overtime. So that's a driving factor. But to your point, if I add 10 officers or 15 officers or 20 officers, that does reduce the overtime once those people are trained, which it takes at least a year to hire them and get them on their own. And that comes with an increase of overtime as we do that training, both in the academy and in the field training. So we should see a reduction. And when we've added positions in the past, we've kind of seen a roller coaster with the overtime. Whereas we're going through training and we're going through field training, we actually see an increase in our overtime. As they get deployed as solo officers, we start to see that overtime decrease. And then it's kind of cyclical. Every 6 months, we're doing an academy class. So we're catching up with our hiring. So that's part of that wave is as we hire every 6 months and have a new class come out, and the classes fluctuate. The last class had 4. We're looking at 20 this next one. So it depends on how many we can get in. Plus, we're bringing in laterals as well. That's constantly bringing that in. So ideally, I would love to say 10 officers would reduce overtime by X%. But also the reality of bringing on 10 more officers, we do more work. So the work does not stop. We have more people that are able to be proactive. So we have our calls for service that are coming from dispatch. They're on average, we know what that number is. But when we're not getting a call asking us to respond somewhere, our officers should be out looking for things to do, looking for enforcement, education, keeping our community safe. So that often, while we've got more people, we're more active, we're seeing more violations, whether it's criminal or civil. We take action. Sometimes that incurs overtime, whether it's court, we get held over, a DUI investigation, and it goes past our time. So that's a very long answer, but it does help, but it doesn't eliminate the problem.
So let me see if I understand then in a nutshell. What you're saying is if you do fill the positions, you're going to have more officers in the field who are going to see more things, which would probably keep the overtime at the current level that it's at, or relative to whatever's going on. Is that fair to say?
So you should see a reduction, but you're not going to see, you know, a set rate. One officer equates to a reduction of, say, 3% of overtime. It's very, it fluctuates. It's hard to put a pin on that. And with personnel that are assigned outside of patrol, it's a little bit easier. Detectives are still a little bit difficult because if I add detectives, there's more cases we can work. We reduce the caseload on each of those detectives. They can pick up more cases and do more, which is what we want. We want them to be more productive. Where individuals like our jail, our records, our dispatch, it's dependent upon what's coming in from the community. And so that we can predict a little bit more of applying for more personnel and what that impact for reducing overtime is. But when you're talking proactive and operations in patrol and our detectives, it's much more difficult to predict.
I guess where my mindset is this, Chief, is that this puts a lot of stress on our officers to have them working a tremendous amount of overtime. I know it's part of the culture, but if you had adequate or more recruitment funds possibly, would that help in drawing talent faster and getting them in the field faster? Or do you feel like you have an adequate amount of money and the right program in place for recruitment?
Mayor and Councilmember Lyons, thank you for seeing into the future. You will be seeing some budget packages to address that issue. We could always use additional resources, as all of our departments could, to do more for our community. And that is one thing that we have looked at for this next year of increasing. We have done things differently this year with our recruiting funds, and we've seen an increase in responses and our hiring, especially in the last 4 months. So we will continue to look for opportunities to invest and reduce that workload, that stress that is on our minds all the time of not overworking our people, because when you do, they call out sick or they quit. And so we've got to have that work-life balance, which at times when we're short-staffed is very difficult to have that balance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are you, Chris, who's going to speak? Is anyone going to speak on item 34? Would that be you, Chris?
Yes, Vice Mayor. We talked about item 34 in executive session last night, and I believe I answered all the questions at that time. If council has any additional questions, I would recommend we go back to executive session because it involves a legal matter.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, are there any additional requests from the mayor or council? And,
Vice Mayor?
okay, yes.
I withdrew mine.
I am going to recuse myself for item 30 because the contract that this change order is under is a contract that my firm was included on prior to me being appointed to council. Although this seems like a separate project that was under that contract, because it's the same contract, I feel most comfortable just recusing myself from item 30.
Okay, thank you. We'll pull that out along with item number 12. Are there any other questions from anyone? Okay, well, with that.
I had mine, but I got everything resolved, so I'm good.
Oh, okay. Are you, okay. Councilmember Lyons, do you have any other questions?
No, I'm good at this time. Vice Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Well, with that, I will make a move to approve items number 8 through 11, 13 through 29, and 31 through 35, unless you... 12 was pulled. Yeah, 12 was pulled, and so was 30. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We'll now move on to,
Call the vote, Vice Mayor.
oh, I'm sorry. I guess we do have to vote. Yeah. Can I have a vote, please? A voice vote.
All in favor?
All in favor, say yes.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so we have, Councilmember Lyons, were you an aye or a nay?
I was an aye.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we have a 7-0 vote. Now, with that, that's where I was going. So with that, we'll vote on item number 12, and you want to tell us why?
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, fellow council members. So although state law does not require recusal, in this case, I feel it's only ethical to recuse myself as the company that is referenced here, Capital. Forgot the name of the company, but anyways, is a friend of mine. His family and my family are friends. I feel it's only right that I step aside on this one, and that's what I'll do.
Okay, we're going to vote on this item, on item number.
I'll move to approve item 12.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And now we'll go to item number 30.
Call the vote.
Oh, I keep forgetting we must vote. Okay, could I have a vote, please? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? So the nays have it, so it's a 7-0 vote? I mean, no. Oh, yeah, because he left. Okay, so we're, Chevelle, I'm keeping you on your toes tonight. A 6-0 vote. Thank you. Okay, so now we will, do I have a motion? Does anyone have any questions on 30, or is there a motion?
Move to approve 30.
I'll second it.
Thank you. And we will now move to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, so we have a 6-1 vote?
6-0.
6-0, sorry. All right, and that concludes the consent agenda. So back to you, Mayor. I'm happy to
Thank
give
you.
this back to you tonight.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We have one item in our administrative items. Item 36, consider adoption of the revised council meeting schedule for calendar year 2025. Do I hear a motion?
I second.
I'll second it.
Been moved by Councilmember Torgerson, seconded by Councilmember Bongiovanni. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Back to you, Vice Mayor, communicate.
I thank you, Mayor. Okay, so we are moving on to communications from citizens, and I will read the rules of decorum. So we value the participation of our community members and robust exchange of ideas. However, it's essential that this discourse remains respectful and constructive, reflecting the professionalism expected in such forums. Misinformation and personal attacks undermine the collective efforts and do not contribute to productive dialogue necessary for our town's progress. This is an opportunity for the public to address the town council directly about issues impacting the town. Accordingly, the town council will not allow for moments of silence or the playing of music or other recorded material which could distract from the meeting decorum or violate copyrights. While we understand and appreciate the passion our community members bring to this session, we remind everyone that clapping during the meeting is not acceptable. This practice can disrupt the flow of discussion, potentially intimidate others, and distract from the respectful atmosphere we strive to maintain. Tonight, we will invite you to come up to the podium. When you come up to the podium, state your name and your city of residence. And you will have 3 minutes to directly address the town council unless otherwise indicated. If the current speaker will be using 3 minutes of another person's time, that person should state their name, the city they reside in, and acknowledge that they are donating their 3 minutes to the current speaker. And our first speaker will be, I believe it's Roanne Wood.
Hello, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Rayanne Wood. I'm a resident of Gilbert. Tonight, I'd like to address the College Park Estates Landscape Maintenance Neighborhood Meeting that was presented in February of '24, 1 year ago. On page 4, bullet point number 3, the presentation states, to date, Gilbert Streets has maintained approximately 40 trees in the College Park Estates along Riata Street and Country Plaza. My question is, if Gilbert has been responsible for maintaining these trees for over 50 years, why is it now being claimed that the responsibility no longer applies? On page number 7, the presentation included an image of a fallen tree with exposed roots that was not located in our neighborhood. After this discrepancy was pointed out to the Gilbert staff, the image was removed from the slides presented in December of '24 at the town council meeting. It seems to be a misleading image and has no relevance with our trees. On page 8, the first sentence references code 4.306, but this is an outdated code. The correct reference should be 5.4.9. This error was corrected after it was brought to the Gilbert staff attention. Additionally, staff has been citing adjacent property owners they were citing that based on the outdated code, when the actual wording now states abutting property owners. This raises concerns about the accuracy of their claims. On page 10, bullet point number 2, the slide was titled, "What are our options?" Option number 1 was a PKID. Option number 2, individual resident responsibilities. Regarding option 2, individual resident responsibilities, there are concerns about how this ideal has been portrayed. At the December 2024 Town Council meeting, Jessica Marlowe claimed that a property owner originally suggested that residents take responsibility for the trees. And during the previous mayor's, her recap also stated that it was the property owner's idea. However, you can clearly see on page 12 of the slide presentation that it was introduced by the Gilbert staff, not by a resident. Why have multiple town representatives repeated the same false information? This misrepresentation misleads both residents and town council members. Thank you for your time. Please do the right thing, look at all the facts, look at the true data, no misleading information, and let's get this issue resolved and behind us. We all have better things to do with our time. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dan Reynolds.
My name's Dan Reynolds. I've been a resident here since 1987, so I've been here a while. Also a former employee. Want to congratulate Mayor on your election, Councilman Bunkland and Mr. Lyons. I question your sanity, but I appreciate your service. So last time I was here, I told you a story about how I let your current fire chief, Rob Duggan, do ride-alongs with us, which he, if you ask him honestly, he'll tell you that I was one of the people that he credits for getting hired here. So for that deed, he was able to get my son to resign as a firefighter of about 19 and a half years. But in his defense, he sold his soul to the devil to get that spot. So it's kind of hard to blame him, but you gotta blame him. One of the things they did after this was they put an injunction of harassment on him for 2 consecutive years. Well, that injunction is gone now. Josh will be coming here to talk to you guys in person, so you can see just exactly how scary he was for them to put an injunction for 2 years in a row. The people that put the injunction on him, Dana Birchman is no longer here. Leah Reinheimer, the assistant town manager, was a big fan of Rob and getting him his position. Nathan Williams, your human resources guy, also was part of the injunction along with Rob Duggan. Josh actually fought one of these injunctions, and the judge actually threw out Leah Reinheimer's claim. I'll let you decide why he threw that claim out. I'm not going to tell you why I think it is, but I'll let you guys decide. He looks forward to coming here and telling his story so you guys know exactly what's going on here with our leadership and so we can clean some of this stuff up. I think if you look at what happened here nationally on November 5th and look at the town of Gilbert and the views we have, I think they're very similar. So hopefully some of the stuff that happened nationally that's getting cleaned up will get cleaned up here. Thank you for allowing me to come here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Darren Hughes.
Mayor, council members, and fellow residents, thanks for allowing me to speak twice tonight. So over the past year, the town of Gilbert has significantly raised taxes and costs on essential services, placing a heavy financial burden on residents. Consider these increases. Sales tax rate changed from 1.5% to 2%, a 33% increase. Water and trash services increased by $25 a month. Last year, a nearly 50% hike. Water rates changed again here in April, coming up another 25% increase, bringing the 2-year total increase on water and trash to nearly 75%. From the last council meeting, the tough decision to raise wastewater rates, I watched that with a lot of interest, an 88% increase. And then talk about system development fees and impact fees. Gilbert is currently at $35,000 per home. And although it doesn't impact me directly because I'm already a homeowner here, it's the highest in the valley by far. And it's just indicative of the spending issues that there are in Gilbert. Just high cost. And I don't think Gilbert has a revenue problem. I think Gilbert has a spending problem. Even former Mayor Bridget Peterson, who voted against the sales tax hike, recognized the problem, stating, "The projects, I think, have been out of hand. How did we get to over $1 billion in projects all of a sudden?" She's right, and let's just look at 3 of these costly projects listed on the Gilbert Town website under the banner Our Priority Projects. The first one, Gilbert Regional Park build-out, $267 million. Desert Sky Park build-out, $116 million. Marathon Trails improvements, it's an 8-mile trail to connect these 2 parks, $49 million. That is $6 million a mile. These projects alone total $432 million. It's no surprise that Gilbert's Parks impact fee is now a shocking $9,400 per single-family home. To put this into perspective, the average impact fee for all Valley cities for parks is just $1,400 per home. Gilbert's fee is 7 times higher than the regional average. Meanwhile, Queen Creek is actually lowering its parks impact fee from $3,000 to $2,000. I could go on, but my message is clear. Enough is enough. Tonight, I urge the new mayor and council to take decisive action. Make it your legacy to reduce cost, rein in spending, and reverse these burdensome increases. As you head into your financial retreat over the next couple of days, I hope your focus will be on cutting waste, controlling expenses, and prioritizing fiscal responsibility. Thank you for your service and for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Sharon. Are you here?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. My name is Sharon Katsonas. I'm a Gilbert resident, and I am here to speak regarding the Gilbert Community Engagement Task Force presentation dated December 17th. During that presentation, there were some recommendations that included activities for teens 13 and up, free concerts, free food, and safe places for our teens to hang out after school and during the weekends. Before the December 17th report, I want to applaud the efforts from our Gilbert Police Department, who took the initiative to hire the town's first youth community engagement officer, Officer Emily King. I also want to applaud the efforts from our town's Parks and Recreation for extending some of their programming that was only offered for summer camp and adding new programming so that our youth and families could enjoy a safe place to have free activities. All those events had already been in the planning before the December 17th meeting. After that, there were other concerts. December 30th, they had a youth activity at the Gilbert Regional Park for high schoolers to enjoy a Nerf battle, free tacos, and music. February 7th, at the Desert Sky Park, there was a free concert by Gilbert musicians ages 13 through 18. They had food trucks, photo booths. It was a free concert. There is an upcoming activity on Saturday, April 5th at the Mesquite Aquatic Center that will offer music, games and challenges, glow-in-the-dark themes, and free food. So all of that aims to address the need for a positive outlet and positive interaction with our teens. So today I want to say thank you to all the parties involved for implementing some of the things that have been proposed, for thinking outside the box, for listening, for establishing new initiatives and activities and events for our Gilbert teens.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Scott September.
Good evening. My name is Scott September. I'm a Gilbert resident, and I'm here tonight representing notinOurCity.org. We have our annual Night of Hope, and Sunday night we had our 7th annual Night of Hope at Grace Community Church. The town of Gilbert signed a proclamation taking a stand against human trafficking. And that's what notinOurCity.org does. We take a stand, we raise awareness, we work with jurisdictions to find solutions, law enforcement, elected officials, churches, and we had this wonderful event. And I just wanted to thank the town of Gilbert for their involvement in that. Gilbert took the lead in this. Your town attorney actually wrote the proclamation that is being signed by dozens of jurisdictions around the state. I also want to thank Councilmember Bongiovanni, Councilmember Buckland, Patrick Banger, the town manager, Elena Bay, Chief Solberg, and Assistant Chief Basigli for attending the event Sunday night. We had an opportunity to honor them and thank them for their efforts in this fight. We're working to protect the vulnerable, prosecute the guilty, and support the survivors of trafficking. We had Congressman Biggs, State Senator Warren Peterson, Senator J.D. Mesnard, and County Attorney Rachel Mitchell attend, and they had a panel where they talked about these issues, and it was wonderful. Senator Peterson announced that he is going to initiate a task force to quantify the problem and to come up with solutions, to raise Arizona's level from the grade F that we currently have to a grade A. And so we're excited about that, but I just wanted to be here tonight and thank all of you for being a part of the solution. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Scott. Our next speaker is Steve Laval, and Stacy Laval is giving him her 3 minutes, so you will have 6 minutes to speak.
Mayor, council members, it's Laval. Welcome. Congratulations, Mr. Buckland, Mr. Lyons, to joining this board. I want to remind you, though, you're sitting in seats where Patrick Banger and Nathan Williams right there and Rob Duggan all wanted to hire people based on race and gender. And I'm not going to let that go because no one's been held accountable to it. So we will continue to come up and we'll continue to speak truth. Some good words by former council member September about the trafficking going on and support from Gilbert. I got to give you some kudos on that. It's kind of ironic. We get a change at the national level. We actually get a border back in this country, and all of a sudden, Gilbert's doing some things in the right direction. Kind of shocking. I'm just curious, have we gotten rid of DE&I yet out of the town? Are we still wasting any money on DE&I, Patrick? Are we still putting our police officers through training for DE&I? Is all that still going on, or are we going to cut that money back and give it back to the citizens? This gentleman right here, I don't know his name, but he did a really, really good job about how much spending this town does and how frivolous you are with our money, but then you turn around right away and you come right back to us and you want us to fund your frivolous spending with our hard-earned money. Instead of reducing your spending. Maybe we need to get a DOJ officer right here in Gilbert and really get into the budget. We have a police chief who just told us his budget is going to be $4.3 million over on overtime. But nobody's held accountable to that. It's not budget's fault. It's not his fault. Nobody's accountable. That's the problem we have in the organization. Nobody's accountable. All right, we have people that hire based on race, and then Dan Reynolds' son, who gave 19-plus hard-earned years without one complaint from a citizen, gets chased out of here because he does a skit with a black firefighter on Black Coffee, and the racist people back there think it's racist, not funny, because they look at skin color. You just had a gentleman sit right here, 100 years old, World War II vet, Korean vet, Vietnam vet. What's the first word he said? Do you guys remember? Don't judge a person by their skin color. All right? It gets pretty basic right there. There's a man that's seen a lot, been through a lot. A lot of wisdom right there from that man. But yet, we still hire 30 for 30. You know about that. You were in the police department, Mr. Buckland. 30 for 30. We're still prioritizing hiring women, trying to get our workforce to be 30% women, or an increase of 30%. Why? Why aren't we just going on merit? I will continue to ask these questions until we actually hold Patrick and his upper management staff accountable. The budget with the police department, the fiasco that that's in, all under Leah Reinheimer, no one's held accountable. So I'm looking forward to having my good friend and former engineer come back and speak the truth. There's a couple things that he didn't bring up. Josh Reynolds did a podcast with a lady that did podcasts for retired or former firefighters to find out what their lives were like now and what they were doing. And your fire chief contacted that district fire chief and said, I don't want you to play that. He didn't hear it. He didn't hear anything about it. He saw a little clip about it, and he used his position to reach out to another fire chief of a fire district and had them stop a podcast. So you guys know what's going on where's my time at? Do you guys know what's going on in Germany right now? Anybody? Anybody see 60 Minutes? Not that 60 Minutes tells you the truth, because they completely changed Kamala Harris's answers, but 60 Minutes in Germany ran a story. They followed the German police to an apartment at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they knocked on the door to get this really bad person. Do you know what this really bad person did? This really bad person tweeted something. And they took that person's phone, and they took that person's laptop, and then they spoke to the DAs, the lawyers, and they said, yes, you can't have hate speech. Do you guys know what hate speech is? Hate speech is legal jargon to try to control speech. Okay? I have a right to tell you anything I want to tell you. I don't have a right to harm you, though. So a crime is not a hate crime. If you commit a crime for someone, I'm sure it's not out of love. All right? But we in this country try to spin these words around, and we take our freedoms too lightly. So my engineer had his First Amendment right taken away from this organization, and from that man, from Nathan, from Rob Duggan. And I'm not going to stop until we restore those rights. When you can't go on a podcast and have your podcast played because some fire chief thinks he's going to talk bad about somebody, he has a right, he has an opinion, he can say it. And by the way, that guy and his wife went to a wedding, and they ran into Dan and his wife. And so imagine your wife or your husband was so threatened by Josh Reynolds that you had a restraining order against him. And then you go to a wedding, and your wife goes up to his wife, tries to give her a big hug and say, let's take a group picture together. Does that sound like a woman that was scared of his son? I don't think so. The lady with the tree said, you have people being dishonest. It's called lying. They're lying. These guys lie. You have a lying problem. I'm going to leave you with this. It's not a lack of knowledge on this podium here. It's a lack of courage. You have to have courage to hold these people accountable. We elect you to hold the unelected accountable, from the town manager, the town lawyer, and all the upper management. So please, I ask you to start holding these people accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. And Stacy, I'm sorry, I just wanted you to acknowledge I forgot to ask you that, so thank you. Our next speaker is Brennan Wood and Allison Hograff. Thank you, by the way. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Brendan Wood. I'm a resident of College Park Country Estates. I'm here once again to discuss the proposed removal of the trees within the public right-of-way of our community. I understand that safety is a concern, and it's true. A limb did fall from one of the trees and cause damage. Safety should always be a priority, and I don't dispute that. But I have to wonder, is the problem really the trees, or is it the way that they've been managed? The Streets Department did the right thing by commissioning an arborist report to assess the trees. But that was only done after the residents demanded it. If the safety of our community was the priority, why wasn't this report initiated sooner? And once the report was completed, why were its recommendations ignored? The arborist report classified the trees as low risk. It didn't recommend removal. Instead, it outlined specific maintenance actions to reduce potential hazards. It states, and I quote, By losing a branch, the load distribution within the tree is changed and makes the tree more susceptible to future failures. The industry recognized mitigation is to increase the frequency of maintenance to these trees, as it has been observed that trees on a more frequent maintenance regimen have less occurrence of failures. Structurally pruned trees on a frequent basis are less likely to fail. When there is a long period between pruning, it is more likely to experience sudden branch drop in warm weather, end quote. If the industry standard is to reduce risk as more frequent maintenance, why didn't that happen? Why was there a 2-year gap in maintenance? And when the first limb fell, why wasn't the tree trimmed like the arborist recommended to prevent future branch drops? Could it be that the additional 2 limbs that fell afterwards weren't because the tree was inherently dangerous, but because the streets department failed to follow the expert's guidance? If that's the case, then I have to ask, is the liability here really with the trees, or is it with the management decisions made by the streets department? If the streets department is willing to disregard the recommendations of their own hired expert, how can we as a community trust their decision-making? If they're not willing to follow industry standards, how can we believe that public safety is truly their priority? This isn't just about trees, it's about accountability and trust. If safety is the primary concern, shouldn't the first step be to ensure that the streets department is maintaining these trees responsibly according to expert recommendations? I asked the council, are we looking at the right problem? Is it easier to blame the trees than to acknowledge the possibility of mismanagement? Before any more trees are removed, shouldn't we investigate why recommendations were ignored? Shouldn't we demand accountability from those responsible for maintaining public safety? I urge you to look beyond the narrative of dangerous trees and examine the root cause. Let's demand responsible leadership and proper maintenance practices. Thank you again for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, that concludes the communications from citizens, and back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to future agenda items. We've got several things listed there that we'll follow up on with possible study sessions in the future. Communications, report from the town manager. Chris, why don't you sing us a song while we're waiting?
I can tap dance too if you'd like.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. We will also get dates set for those items on future meeting agendas for you for the next meeting. 2 items tonight under Town Manager's Report. First, I'd like to recognize and congratulate the retirement of John Powell. John Powell is retiring from Gilbert after 29 years of service as our GIS supervisor. John's journey with Gilbert began with him serving as the town's only GIS expert. As the town grew, so did John's responsibilities as a supervisor in managing the day-to-day operations of the GIS division and its 6 team members. Over the years, John's work has been instrumental in the town's growth and success. He provided mission-critical mapping data, including 2.76 million mapped features and 594,000 LRIP features. LRIP, for those who aren't familiar with that term, is our long-range infrastructure plan for services that included land development, water systems, sewer systems, stormwater, reclaimed water, planning, parks, base maps, street right-of-ways, public safety, IT assets, economic development, and facilities. While John provided important mapping services for the town needs, he continued to motivate and mentor his team to develop new and cutting-edge solutions such as the What's Developing Nearby app, the bulk trash pickup app, and digital twins, to name just a few. During John's years of service, he has embodied Gilbert's mission to anticipate change, create solutions, and help people. We wish John the very best in his next chapter of life, knowing that he leaves an indelible mark on Gilbert and a legacy that will serve the town and its citizens for years to come. We had a retirement celebration today for John, and I did my best over the last couple of months to convince John to not retire, but he will be sincerely missed. He was an exceptionally talented individual who embodied all the values of our organization. It was just a pleasure and a joy to work with. We wish him the best on a well-earned retirement. Next, we'd like to congratulate David Fabiano. He received the 2025 Lifetime Achievement Award. He's the Assistant Public Works Director, and I'm sorry, I read the title, now I'm reading the verbiage. So it was awarded to him from the Arizona chapter of the National Society of Professional Engineers. Each year, the award recipient is selected based on their significant contributions to and promotion of the social and professional interests of the engineering profession in the state of Arizona, his passion to supporting the growth and development of the new engineers, unwavering ethical standards, an exceptional initiative and commitment to sharing his passion and knowledge of engineering, leadership, and service with others throughout the community made David the clear selection for this year's awards, and we congratulate David on that well-deserved recognition. That's all I have tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Report from the council. Councilmember Bongiovanni.
Thank you, Mayor. From the Parks and Rec. Join us for the Kapow Superhero Adventure Run. Families are invited to participate in this fun-filled event featuring over 20 exciting obstacles for you and your little superheroes to conquer. The adventure begins on March 22nd, 2025 at Freestone Park, with waves starting every 15 minutes from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Participants are encouraged to don their favorite superhero costumes and embrace the spirit of the day. Also, join us for the Smoke Show event. Saddle up for an unforgettable day of barbecue, ice-cold drinks, and get country tunes. The Smoke Show event will take place on Saturday, March 22nd at the Gilbert Regional Park, and it's set to be an event you won't forget. The concert will feature a stellar lineup of performers, highlighted by Old Dominion and Chris Young, the legendary Joe D. Messina, Gavin DeGraw, and many more.
Thank you. Councilmember Kaprowski.
I just wanted to highlight that the Gilbert Symphony Orchestra had a fantastic concert last week. It was one of their best shows. They had a solo celloist who is an instructor at U of A, and it was fantastic. But upcoming, there's another concert. It'll be the final in this season. It is Monday, March 31st, and its theme is more of a family night. Classical music from classic cartoons. So the music will be from familiar pieces like Fantasia or Bugs Bunny, things like that. It'll be at 7 p.m. at the Higley Center for Performing Arts, and it is a free event. It is also part of Gilbert's Dementia Friendly initiative. Thank you.
Any others? Report for the mayor. I only had one thing to remind people about the HD South Night at the Museum Gala fundraiser, which is this Saturday evening. This is an annual event when they raise funds. They're doing it off-site this year because we've got some construction going on site, which is really a positive thing that's happening there on site. But that is this Saturday night at the Hilton DoubleTree. I don't have anything else in council. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.